Hi guys. We haven't done a live in a minute and I was like, okay, I only have a few minutes. This isn't going to be a super long live. Welcome everyone to my channel. It's been a hot minute and I realize this is actually not going to be a well-known topic for a lot of people that are on the channel for the Duggars, and truthfully, this is not a video where I'm going to itemize everything that came out in Emily's video or really explain the whole thing. I want to encourage my audience more than anything to, if they have not, check out the video that Emily Artful put out. She is a YouTube, she's like an art creator. So she does art, like story times. She also does she does commentary a little bit, not a whole lot. She does stuff about specifically art, and she does sketchbooks and drawing, and she's super talented artist. And it's pretty impressive. I actually spent some time watching some of her videos over the last several days, and I was like, how have I never heard of her before? She has quite an amazing story. She's gone through a hell of a lot in her life, and she's a survivor. And that is why I'm here to share this with you. And obviously, people are going to connect me to the story because Shannon, Creepshow Art, also targeted me, and some people still believe the videos that she made about me. And to be honest, this isn't really about me, because when I watched Emily's video, which was on her channel, so I'll show you what her channel looks like. I'm sure a lot of you have already watched it if you're here, and I don't expect this, again, video to have a huge turnout just because of the topic alone. But this is Emily's channel. She is an art creator, and this was her video, which is Creepshow has always been this way. And it's a 2-hour video where she goes into detail about her experience with Shannon and Shannon's, I don't even know if it's her husband or if it's just like a boyfriend. I'm not sure. It's so unclear. Shannon calls him her husband, but I don't know if that's true or not. After everything that was revealed by Emily, it's very hard for me to unpack what is true that Shannon talked about on her channel versus what is not true. And if you're not familiar with Creepshow Art, I will show you that. She is another art YouTuber, but she's mostly known for her sort of, I don't know, she's a commentary channel, but I don't even know how to describe her channel. Anyone in chat want to offer how you would describe her channel? She likes to expose people for doing things, and a lot of her videos are like about exposing people that she believes are terrible. So if you look at a lot of her, and I'm on this, and she says I'm terrible, just so you know. And unfortunately, a lot of people were influenced by her opinions about me. But you can see on here, a lot of it is just like, this person's the worst. This person's terrible. This person on Twitter is awful. This reality TV guy is the worst. What happened to her is not okay. David Dobrik's a jerk. You know, it's very, like, the titles are, she just seems to like target people, and then she just sort of like puts out the worst. And then you can see, like, Without a Crystal Ball needs to stop. Her other video about me is over here, that she said that I was sending doxing and death threats, which is not true. There's another one, hacked, deplatformed, and doxed. Again, not true. And then false murder accusations, defamation, doxing, and more. So she has 4 total videos on me, but she has so many videos on so many people. And the biggest overwhelming criticism of her over the last several years has been that she puts together kind of like, in a way, a hit piece, I guess, where she collects information that she believes is the most damning and then convinces her audience about why you should not like the person that she doesn't like, or the person that she's talking about in this video. And it definitely drives up a lot of like feelings and emotions, and people feel like they want to attack and they want to go after people. And she has, she says, Creepshow is mostly known for harassing a woman who has an eating disorder for having an eating disorder. We will get into what happened with Emily. So over the years, she has done pieces about Jeffree Star and all these other pieces. But what she wasn't telling us is that in her pursuit of all these other people to call out their terrible behavior, consistently her go-tos for covering people were this person's doxing someone, this person is false copyright striking this person, this is, you know, it was always like a huge leveled accusation that would get people angry at whoever she was talking about. And then her wild mass of people would sort of go after them. And her audience is primarily, I believe, young. So maybe, I don't know, I think she has a lot of teenagers that follow her. I've noticed that a lot of the people that are yelling and screaming at me online are primarily like 12 to 18-year-olds. So she lives in sort of this cosmic place where you have to get a lot of views. And what she wasn't telling people was that apparently her whole channel was started under almost like this single white female vibe, because Emily Artful says that Creepshow was basically stalking, harassing, and threatening to release all kinds of information about her, and using, like Emily says, that she had photos of her from when she was 15 years old, that she got her fired from a job. And Creepshow actually had created this whole story herself that she had been stalked for like 10 years. And she called this person Amy. So when she was, she created this whole storyline about Amy, and Amy was actually, we're learning, Creepshow art, and her target was actually not Creepshow, but Emily. So it's pretty intense how this all plays out. But Emily put together this really long video, and in it, she explains how she was basically dating Shannon's now husband before Shannon and him were involved. And they were young, like when they were dating. I don't know if it was like late teens, early 20s. And once they sort of split up, things kind of got ridiculous. Like what Emily has gone through is significantly terrible. Like there's so many different, it felt like there were so many different things that were almost criminal about what she was describing, specifically about something that she alleged that Shannon's husband did. So Emily was very forthright in her video, which was again 2 hours long, about how she was in the middle of drug addiction when she was involved with Anthony, Shannon's husband. And when she got out of her addiction, she sort of got out of that haze and started recovering. And her relationship with Anthony, she feels kind of fell apart when, I don't know if it, her explanation for the reason why it fell apart was very, like the story that Anthony had developed was very weird, but she actually expanded about it on her Twitter. And when on her Twitter account, she was talking about how she thinks that he started dating Shannon and then came up with some sort of excuse to dump her and then end up going with Shannon, because Shannon and he worked together at a movie theater. So I believe that Shannon is a little bit, maybe a little bit younger, a year or two younger, and she and her husband now have dated on and off for a very long time. So she alleges that when all of this was going on, there seems to have been a little bit of a back and forth where he would be with Shannon and then he would be with her, and flirtatiously. And she even stated that when she was at her very lowest of lows, she was literally like laying in bed and that Anthony crawled through her window. And she says she was knotted out on, I don't know what she said she was taking. and that he effectively essayed her allegedly because she was not coherent enough to consent. So after that happened, she didn't have a lot of contact with him, but apparently she sang on a song that Anthony is a musician, and Emily says that he showed a song to her that he had written, and she heard the vocals and she thought she could do a better job, not realizing that Shannon was the other woman that was singing on there. And she told him that she should be the one to sing on it. And she did the song with him and she collaborated with him professionally. And she thinks that could have been the moment when Creepshow was sort of set off, that, you know, she got him to drop her from her song. And I think like just the jealousy between the two, but it seems like Anthony himself also just could not let go of whatever was going on between them. So she then shared that at some point in time, they ended up hacking, she alleges that they ended up hacking into her Facebook account and stealing, like she was never able to get back into her Facebook account. And they end up getting all of her messages, all of her DMs, which contained really suggestive, really lewd photos of her when she was like 15 years old. And over the years, she says that they have sort of threatened and taunted her to release these photos, that they uploaded all of these photos into a photo bin that now has been deleted. And that they were using this sort of photo bin as like almost a weapon of her to make her fearful. So I was like shook when I heard about the stuff related to what he did with crawling in her window. I felt even more bad when I heard about, I felt it was like this video where you're just like every time something new happened, it was just like more and more and more. And every time it's like, you feel like a punch to the gut for her. Like, how could these people do this to her? So she alleges that he breaks into her house and essays her. She alleges that he breaks into her Facebook account and steals photos of her from when she was 15 years old and then uploads them to a photo bin and threatens to release them. And knowing that that was used as a tool to threaten her, it was even more scary. And then she talks about how she started getting like Snapchats where people were like photographing like an area where she was, trying to make her feel scared about, I'm going to come get you. And she said she knew it was Anthony. She believes that Shannon actually started her channel because Emily started her channel. So apparently, after Emily gets on YouTube, Shannon suddenly creates a YouTube that looks almost identical and does almost the identical things to Emily. Emily at the time was not a huge creator, but was known for her sketchbook story times. And then suddenly Creepshow, who was new on the scene, started doing sketchbook story times and wasn't really honest about who she was. And Emily didn't know who Shannon was because Shannon, only knew her name. Shannon didn't know her didn't see her face. So she had no clue who she was. And then at some point in time, she figures out who they are. This is the video covering this, Bonita. So she figures out who Shannon is, and she figures out that she's with Anthony, and it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so Shannon is like copying her thumbnails. Shannon is putting out content. She's in the same platform as her. She's doing the same kind of content as her. She's telling stories about the things that they're doing to her, but she's alleging it's happening to her. So she has all these videos about being homeless and having a stalker and, having these friends that did these terrible things. And the stories, the way that they're framed is that Creepshow is the target. But in truth, Emily is saying, no, that's what she did to me. No, this is me when she's talking about her, and Amy is her. So she created this whole narrative around Emily being the bad guy and she being the one that Emily was doing these things to. Now, Emily fully admits that she has her own issues. She took ownership for past problematic things she has said, and she's said on Twitter that she knows that, Creepshow probably has plenty of dirt that she could put out on her. But, she ended up being able to track all this down by sending them a link where she figured out their IP address and determined that it was their IP in the places that they were living. And she even ended up confronting Shannon with everything that she had found. And Shannon was really weird in it. I was couldn't even believe it. She said that she would agree to sign a document to stop talking about her. Or if she wanted to go forward with the restraining order, she would comply and cooperate. It was very odd to me. It was clear through all the different evidence that whatever was happening, it seemed there was sock accounts and sock puppets and so many different accounts that were spamming her and sending her terrible messages. And I'm doing such a terrible job explaining all of this, but after she did her video, she actually released a lot more of the receipts. So I can show you this. This is actually from her Twitter. What I really want to express is that what she was put through is horrible. She was someone who was not involved anymore with these people, and they used their social media platforms to almost stalk, harass, and intimidate her. And she has been living in fear for years because of the power that Shannon has. And something that really set forward for me, which made me sort of resonate with the experience, was that she made this comment that she can take a kernel of truth and spin a bunch of lies around it so that people think the story is believable, but she omits so many of the facts and then everything else is a lie. So she might take a tiny thread of what you've done, and then she spins it into something completely terrible. And that's kind of what my experience was with her, where she took something that she didn't like that I had done, and then she spun it into something completely terrible, regardless of and knowing that it was likely not true. And a lot of the stuff she reported on me was just completely not factual. So when Emily said that, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And honestly, I feel like Shannon learned a lot about how to do what she did to so many creators. This is not just me. This is someone that did this to so many different creators. So she has put out a bunch of different accounts to show that Creepshow is basically has sock accounts. So this was a share from Creepshow Art's actual TikTok, where you can see that she's using a fake Twitter account named Bloop, even though she insists that she doesn't have a Twitter account. And there's the actual name, Bloop. Now, during the live stream, I should note, Kit Kat says, I couldn't help but think of my experiences interacting with sock accounts who harass you and take a seed of truth and run with lies. Very condescending, scary, and judgmental and cruel. Yes, when you put a tiny fraction of truth into something, it becomes so easy to spread, and then people can believe the narrative. And I think more than anything, what this revealed to me is this very twisted underworld of sock puppets and trying to control narratives and, it's and trying to hurt people. And it seems like she started with Emily, and then it was just whoever else she could get to, whoever else she could hurt. And she says, here's proof that Shannon liked to use a sock puppets and laid on the reveal that she had to have known who I was early on. And this was via allegedly Angelo. Then she also said, no greater lie than the truth slightly distorted. Exactly. When I politely confronted Shannon about her calling her story time videos sketchbook story time, she said she only named them that because of Lehman something Raptor, implying that she didn't even know that I had a series by the name. That was on June 1st, 2018. And so she says, it's your channel and you can do it with as you please. But from one artist to another, I hope you'll understand how it can hurt my business. I hope you love art. And I know you love art, and I know it's obvious that you're very talented. You've got an incredibly unique style. I've never seen anything like it. I hope you understand my request, and I hope you don't think I'm angry. Things like this happen all the time. And she said, sorry, man, I watched Lehman Raptor on YouTube, and she has a series titled the same. And she gave me a go ahead, and I'll just label them as story times since that's all it is. But I appreciate you letting me know. So she says that, but she clearly has been watching my videos beforehand enough to even directly follow a tutorial down to the line. There's a video from August 12th, 2016, and proof this is how I drew my smoke. So she shared these posts from her Instagram where she did a tutorial on smoke. And then she said Shannon's art using smoke drawing technique to a T. So here's her smoke, and then here's hers. It's pretty uncanny. And then it says, now obviously Shannon couldn't have just had my original tutorial recommended to her, and she just enjoyed it and followed it and paid no mind to who uploaded it, except that to this day, this video only has 8.5 thousand views, and it's even smaller back then, so likely to be not likely to be recommended to anyone. So she then shared her side of it. Oops. Oh, crap. Hold on. Sorry, let me show you what I was just showing you. Okay. So this was her, she showed this, and then okay. And then I'll show you the smoke that she was doing. So here is Emily's smoke tutorial on how she teaches how to do smoke. And she says this is from June 13th. And then she says that Shannon then used the same technique when she uploaded these. So it's like she was almost trying to like emulate how Emily's art looked as well. And then she says, anyone but my subscribers, the large YouTuber who used to be a friend of Shannon's, allowed me to use this screenshot of her message to me and still wants to remain anonymous. And I completely respect that, but I thought at least post this part of the conversation. So this is what one of her friends, who's a large creator, told Emily. Just mean girl shit, saying you copy her, are crazy obsessed with her, that you are weird, lots of you wanting to be her, and that you lie. I can't remember if she had said anything about you stalking her, talking about your addiction. I have family that suffered from addiction, so if she went that route, we would have been fighting. I found it weird because she would come to me to complain about you, but I had no idea who you were or why she was so mad at you. At the time, it felt like petty girl or YouTuber stuff. So this was not someone that Shannon was covering on her channel. This was not someone, thank you for becoming a member. This was not someone that Shannon was covering on her channel. This was not someone that she was actively talking about. So like her friends are saying, this is even weird. Like, why are you coming to me with this? And she said, I find it hilarious that Shannon always accused me of copying her when my channel was up and posting 3 years before hers. Then she creates her channel and creates not only art that is identical in style and line, weight, subject matter to mine, but also started creating the same kind of content. Once I started to suspect Shannon, you can see a strong change in my content. Why? Because I wanted so badly to be away from Shannon, to make content that was nothing like what she made. I wanted to get away from them. You can see me pull away from my story times because it sickened me to even think about her having audience crossover. Whenever I would receive a genuine comment about CSA and having similar bodies of work, it would make me feel ill. Because even if the only thing she ever did was to be a catty mean girl behind all our backs, she still was in a relationship with my abuser, so I associated my trauma with her and everything she did. So for those of you who wonder why I stopped doing story time, this is part of the reason why. It's not like they performed poorly. They would often perform pretty well. But I didn't care. I cared about my recovery way more than I pretty much slowed to a stop. So she had also shared these accounts that she had created. So these accounts, she says, were created by Creepshow Art to send her messages. And then there was this one. It's so wild to me, the lengths that this went and just the copying. And she like further drove home that like one of the accounts that she was getting stuff from was under the like an email account like Ayla. And so she was showing here that like he was telling her where to find stuff under Ayla. He was asking her where she was working because she ended up getting fired by someone reporting her. She put out this rambling like stuff she was getting from this guy on her Snapchat, and this sort of shows the same kind of conversational style that Anthony had with her. She described Anthony as kind of a dangerous person that had like Columbine like fantasies of like going to school with his guns and like shooting everything up, and you know, being really into like the Joker, Heath Ledger's character, the one which reminded me of that guy that in Colorado that did something similar. But she shared like receipts between her and him. And, you know, there's just so much here where it's like so clear that what was happening was they were just harassing her through sock accounts and holding things over her name. It is very hard to explain exactly. So it's a challenging story to explain. It's got so many layers. And I would just say, like, if you want the full story, watch Emily's video. It's so much. But what I would just say from myself to any other person, like specifically to Emily, that like some of the stuff that Creepshow was exposed for saying on LOL Cow and about Emily really was targeting her mother, like her parenting, her children, and what a bad mom she was. And I just want to say publicly, like, Emily, I'm sure you're a wonderful mom. Like, I think it's horrible when creators go after other creators over their parenting. I think it's a terrible place when we start bringing children in that are not part of our channels into the mix and making accusations of abuse or of bad parenting or neglect. I'm so sorry that that happened to her. Yes, I will link Emily's full video, which is on her YouTube channel at the end of this video. So I'll put her link in the description when we're done with this. So a sock account is a sock, they're called sock puppets. And what a sock puppet is basically a fake account that someone creates. And it is an account where the person that's creating them is using them to make it seem like there's a really large conversation going on around you. They use them for some creators. Some people use them to promote things. They use it to spam. And when it comes to trolling like this or stalking, they're used to make it seem like a lot of people are really mad at this one person, and they're used to be anonymous, and they're also used as a means to like make it seem like so many people are super angry about this thing to dictate and to control the narrative of what's happening. And that happens a lot in a lot of these communities on YouTube. I can't even tell you. I've been on the receiving end of a group that's been doing this to me for 2 years. So in a lot of ways, I could empathize with her. And then I also could empathize with her having been a target of Creepshow. But the sock puppets are not real people, and they're creating these false accounts, and they're leaving nasty comments, and they are trying to persuade people to not like someone based on whatever reason. So a lot of the people, the biggest criticism so far has been that there's been a lot of creators that Creepshow was friends with, and Creepshow definitely with her platform used her platform to target people, whether they had done something wrong or, you know, whether it was justified or not justified. I will say when I looked through a lot of her titles, you know, it's hard because the literal black and white thinking was so hard for me to digest, because nobody is all things bad and nobody is all things good. Like every person makes a mistake. And so when I'm looking at all of her titles, like this person's the worst and this person needs to be stopped and this needs to be ended and like that kind of stuff. And then the videos are like very rambling and angry. It's you start to realize that like almost in a way, like whatever she put her target on, she wanted to drive her audience to hate that person, whether it was warranted or not. And sadly, there's been a lot of creators she's done this to where she's put out false narratives and fake information about them, and it's spread like wildfire. Only in my case did she was the first creator at the time to put out all of this stuff that trolls had given to her about me, and they were not factual things that I had done. And then all of these channels that she was friends with would kind of parrot the same videos. And so in a lot of ways, she would find a target and then she would sort of get her friends, it seemed like, to make videos about them. And so you would have like 15 videos all in the span of a day coming out about one person. And then that person becomes like the worst person on the internet. And the audience is so young that they don't even realize that, like, hey, did this person actually really do this? Is this actually true? You know, it's hard. And then once that narrative is out there, it's nearly impossible for someone to correct. So Emily here got the worst of the worst. I feel so terrible for what she experienced. And as a whole, here, my husband says, the sock accounts are generally used by 1 or 2 people, and they use them to create false conversations about someone. There you go. And then D says, I would never be able to keep track of it. Sock accounts are generally used for deceptions. So a lot of people go through this. I put out some stuff yesterday about my support to Emily, and then all of these sock accounts start coming into my chat saying, you're just as bad as Creepshow, you're a terrible human. You know, I will never be able to convince people what they want to say about me. Like, the internet that she's convinced hates, like, they think I'm a terrible person, and that's fine. But I hope maybe for everyone, this can be kind of like a wake-up call, not just for, like, I hope that Emily can get some healing out of this. I think it was incredibly brave for her to share her story. I think it's empowering when you're the victim of being stalked that you can put it out there, because it takes away the power the stalkers have from you and the harassers have from you. And I'm just great. You know, I think by her shining a light on that, it sort of opens up this wider dialogue about how people do this kind of stuff to creators. Because her story, when I was looking at the comments on her channel, I saw so many creators being like, this has happened to me. This has happened to me. This happened to me. This happened to me. I could totally relate to this. And, you know, I think if we're making content to simply like destroy people, like, we're never going to be like, if you build your platform on hate, it'll eventually come back to bite you. And I feel like we should not be making content to harm people. Like, after everything she shared about Creepshow, I want Emily to get the justice that she feels like she can get. If there's legal things that she can take, if she can make reports to the police or whatever it is that she can do, I hope she goes that direction. And for Shannon, whatever is going on with her, whether it's she's stuck in a really bad relationship, whether her and her husband are just a combustible pair, I hope for their sake, they get help, because I can't see anyone who is feeling good about themselves doing this to someone. I really don't believe that anyone that's in a good headspace takes these kinds of steps to hurt other people online. And I don't think that anyone that makes content that's hate-filled and hurtful would do that to anyone else. I hope that if there's a way that she can tangibly take steps to getting into therapy or talking to a doctor or getting out of this relationship, because there could be that this guy is just a terrible human, because if he's done this to Emily, who knows what he could be doing to her. It doesn't excuse her behavior, but, you know, it's not good. Oh, my husband doesn't like Andrew's music. It makes me very angry to see a person commit this level of time and energy to attack others. Agreed. The truth will always come out. Yes. And will she come back from this? You guys, I don't know how she would be able to. This would be a really huge hill to climb, because her channel has really gone down in such great, let me see where she was at. She's lost so many subscribers. She's at 442,000. When this all kicked off, she had 504,000, and that was a week ago. So she's down like 60,000 subscribers. She has deleted all of her stuff on Instagram. She has deleted her Twitter. She has, I don't know how she'll come back. She's deleted over 3 million views on her YouTube. And it's interesting. She took her Instagram down on the heels of knowing that Emily was going to be coming out with this video. And it's probably, in my opinion, because she knew that Emily had that DM conversation. Yeah, what I would want for someone that's in a position like this is to not have hate directed towards her. I still, like, even though I was a target of hers, I don't hate her. I hate the behavior. I don't hate anyone. I want her to get help if this is what, you know, if she's doing these things, this is not someone that's a healthy person. Like, healthy people do not engage in this kind of behavior. And I hope she can get into therapy, maybe get out of this relationship, maybe do something that's productive in her life that isn't about destruction. And I hope other creators will kind of be just mindful about the content that we put out and who we're listening to as our sources. And just remember that just because someone says something, that doesn't mean it's true. And when we levy huge allegations against someone, to really make sure that you have the sources to back up the claims, and not just a clip out of context or a morsel of truth and then blow it up into a big spectacle. I will say my brand of content has changed considerably over the last, I don't even know, year, as I have changed and evolved and realized what I want to put on this platform. And I want to be more of a storyteller when I'm reporting on stuff. I don't want to be a destroyer. I don't want to be someone that's canceling other people. There was a lot of that happening last year, and I got so overwhelmingly exhausted by, if your whole goal is to somehow cancel people, you're never going to win, because nobody can be canceled truly unless someone removes themselves or is removed from the platform. So calling out behavior is one thing, but literally trying to destroy people is a complete other story. Yes, healthy people build each other up and are kind, and how you treat others is how you'd like to treat yourself. So I'm just going to say, from my community, I completely support Emily. I'm so proud of her for speaking up. I hope this brings her some level of healing. And I truly hope that Creepshow in Shannon, wherever she is, can get what she needs to get help, because I can't believe she would go to these lengths to just hurt someone. It's deeply disturbing. So you can tell me what your thoughts are. I know some people will say that I'm inserting myself into this drama. I'm certainly not trying to do that at all. What Emily experienced was way worse than anything I went through. But I think this will make a lot of people who have had bad experiences with Creepshow feel more empowered to share them. And I would just ask viewers to realize that, like, maybe what she put out about people wasn't true. And just because you think you know someone doesn't mean you do. And maybe if we stop looking at someone as saying you can't be redeemed, maybe we start looking at growth and how people treat one another and how they act with one another. And, you know, have a rapport with people where we can have dialogues and not just trying to ruin each other. Because if we're just trying to ruin each other, it just creates chaos, and nobody wants that. And I feel like this is a cautionary tale to what can happen when it just goes too far. I feel like the commentary community deserves more positivity. I feel like the commentary community deserves less infighting. And I feel like the commentary community needs to really stop nitpicking one another and dictating what others can and cannot cover. If you want to cover something, cover it. If you don't like how someone covered it and you're a commentary channel, there's no point in going on your channel and saying, I don't like how this person covered it. Do the story and do the story the way you would want it covered. Make the content you want to make, not what you think another commentary channel is doing wrong. That would be my advice. And that's what I stick to. So we'll be back tomorrow with normal content, not related to this. And make sure you tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Bye, guys.